Have you ever clicked on a video that felt completely off? Maybe it was recommended to you late at night when the rest of the world was fast asleep and your house was completely silent. Maybe the thumbnail looked strange enough that you just had to know what it was. So you watch it, then you scroll through the comments, and then you click on a link that someone posted in the discussion section. Before you even realize it, you are an hour deep into some incredibly bizarre corner of the internet trying to figure out what you just found. The deeper you go, the stranger things become. Because some internet rabbit holes do not just lead to weird music videos or unsettling websites. Sometimes they lead to things that are genuinely horrifying in the real world. From a home security camera capturing a little girl begging for help in the middle of the night, to a live stream where viewers become convinced a woman is being held hostage, to a website exposing thousands of unsecured security cameras to complete strangers around the world. Today, we are diving into the darkest rabbit holes on the internet. Let us start on November 28th, 2019, in a quiet neighborhood called Harriet Creek Ranch, which is located in Texas. A resident there had just woken up from a very deep sleep. They were feeling groggy, slowly starting their day and going through their normal morning routine. They brewed some coffee, took a warm shower, and sat down to eat breakfast. After that, they did what almost everyone does. They picked up their phone to check their notifications, scrolling through emails, text messages, and missed calls. It was all the typical things they were used to waking up to, which is why one specific alert from their home security camera app immediately stood out to them. The notification read that there was motion detected at their front door. It told them to tap and hold the notification to see the recorded footage. This motion had occurred in the absolute middle of the night, at a time when no packages would have been delivered, no friends would have been popping by, and all the neighbors had to have been fast asleep. The homeowner figured it must have been a stray animal walking across the porch or some other perfectly reasonable explanation, but they were still curious. So they opened the app to play back whatever had occurred outside their door while they were sleeping. Nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to see. When they played the video, they saw the dark porch illuminated only by the faint light of the camera. Suddenly, a young girl ran into the frame. She was crying, hysterical, and clearly in a state of absolute panic. She looked directly at the camera and began to scream out. She pleaded for help, crying out over and over, begging for someone to save her. Her cries were desperate and gut-wrenching. The pain and absolute terror in her voice were not only heartbreaking, but completely terrifying to listen to. It is easy to imagine the sheer dread the owner of the house felt in that moment. Waking up to see this, realizing that a child in desperate need of help was standing right outside their front door while they were asleep in bed, completely unaware. They immediately notified the police, turning the footage over to law enforcement so they could figure out who this girl was and save her from whatever she was running from. That would have been the perfect ending to this story. But with footage like that, which feels like it was taken straight out of a horror movie, things are rarely wrapped up with a neat little bow. The police launched an investigation, but they could never really figure out who this girl was. Or if they did, they never released her identity to the public. Because of this silence, the internet began to do its own detective work. People started connecting the mysterious girl in the video to a very high-profile missing child case from South Dakota. That case belonged to a 9-year-old girl named Serenity Denard. Serenity had endured an incredibly difficult childhood suffering severe trauma at the hands of her biological parents before she was eventually placed into foster care. Later, she was adopted by a loving couple named Chad and Cassandra Denard. Even though her new home life was much better, Serenity was still haunted by the memories of her early years. She was a very outgoing, bright, and charismatic kid who could easily light up any room she walked into, and she was loved by everyone around her. But her adoptive parents still faced massive difficulties because of her trauma. Serenity would often run away from home and threaten that she would never come back. This behavior was incredibly stressful for the family, and they were unsure of how to handle it. Eventually, Serenity was sent to the Black Hills Children's Home, which was a professional treatment center for kids struggling with behavioral issues. There is not a lot of information available about her time there, but on February 3rd, 2019, Serenity made a run for it. It was 10:45 in the morning when she slipped out of the group home and ran into the freezing cold woods. Just 15 minutes later, at 11 o'clock, someone who was entering the facility grounds saw her walking alongside the road. Because they did not know she was an escaping child, they did not stop to help her. And that was the last time Serenity Denard was ever seen. Many people believe the girl begging for help in the Texas security video is indeed Serenity. There is a striking physical resemblance between the two, and Serenity would certainly be in a position where she desperately needed help. But there are details that make this theory highly unlikely. The police ultimately concluded that Serenity got lost in the freezing woods and sadly passed away from hypothermia shortly after running away. When she ran, the temperature was below zero, and she was not even wearing a coat. The only way she could have survived those conditions would be if someone had picked her up and taken her inside. If that happened and that person drove her all the way from South Dakota to Texas, it would explain how she ended up on that porch. But if someone did take her, their intentions were likely not good. Otherwise, they would have returned her to her worried family. This would mean she was running away from her captor in that video. However, some viewers believe there was no real danger present in the video at all. They believe it was a staged setup. There is a known tactic where home invaders will send a young child to a front door to cry and beg for help, hoping the homeowner will open the door out of empathy. Once the door is open, the criminals rush inside to rob the home. It is a chilling theory, and it is infuriating that we live in a world where we have to second guess our natural instinct to help a distressed child. But we will likely never know the truth about what happened to the girl in that video. Whether she was Serenity Denard, another missing child on the run, or the decoy for a group of criminals, she has never been officially identified, leaving us all to wonder where she ran off to when she walked off the porch and hoping that she is somehow okay. Now, let us talk about the concept of privacy. Every single second of every single day, there is someone on their knees talking to whatever higher power they believe in. Whether they are praying to God, Buddha, Zeus, or Allah, someone is pouring their heart out right now. They might be whispering to themselves in a quiet room or praying alongside a community in a church. Either way, it is an incredibly intimate, personal, and sacred moment. But now, imagine that very moment from a bird's eye view. Imagine you are deep in a conversation with your creator, feeling completely vulnerable, seeking guidance, and someone is watching you. Not a stalker hiding in the shadows, but a camera perched high in the corner of the room. You might have noticed it, but you thought nothing of it, assuming it was just there for security and protection. But what if that camera was actually giving complete access to absolutely anyone on the internet? With a simple click onto a website called Instacam, your private moment is gone, turned into a live broadcast for strangers to watch for free. Instacam is a website that hosts thousands of live security camera feeds from all over the world. One of the feeds on the site comes from a church in Louisville, Kentucky. Watching it feels deeply invasive and wrong. The camera is positioned directly over the altar, capturing people as they kneel and pray. Because the stream is live, the scene constantly changes. Sometimes the church is completely empty, and other times a different person is there, taking their time with their prayers, completely unaware that a random person across the country is silently watching them. It feels incredibly gross to watch, but Instacam is entirely legal. According to the website's frequently asked questions section, these cameras are not hacked. Instead, Instacam simply searches the internet for security cameras that do not have any password protection. When people buy these cameras, they often plug them in and leave the default settings active, which makes the live feed publicly accessible to anyone who knows how to find it. Instacam automatically scrapes these feeds and compiles them onto one site. They state that if a homeowner wants their camera removed from the site, they can request it, but they also warn that the camera will still be visible to anyone using surveillance search software. The only real solution to make a camera private is to set up a secure password. Because of this loophole, Instacam is not breaking any laws. A lot of the feeds on the site are harmless, showing public spaces like busy intersections, warehouses, or the inside of retail stores. But mixed in with these boring feeds are streams that feel incredibly private. For example, there is a feed that shows the private driveway of a home in an isolated wooded area. The people who live there clearly chose this location because they wanted to be left alone, but because they forgot to set a password on their security camera, their quiet life is now broadcast to the entire world. It gets even more disturbing. Some feeds are located inside people's homes or are actively being used to spy on people. A Reddit user once posted about a highly unsettling stream they discovered on Instacam. They wrote that they found a camera feed that was actively being controlled by someone to peep into people's windows. The person controlling the camera was panning and zooming, deliberately searching for lit windows in a large apartment complex to spy on the residents inside. They were particularly focused on one window that appeared to be the bedroom of a young woman. The Reddit user decided to investigate. By watching the stream and paying close attention to the background, they saw the camera pan over to a newly opened White Castle fast food restaurant located right next to a Star Care pharmacy. Using Google Maps and these landmarks, they managed to track the location down to Jamaica, New York, near the airport, even though the camera's technical data originally pointed to Pennsylvania. The user realized that the person controlling the camera was almost certainly living in the apartment building directly across the street from the victims. It is a small relief that the Reddit user was able to expose this, and thankfully, that specific stream has since been taken down. But the terrifying reality is that anyone who clicked on that stream also had access to the live controls, meaning any random person on the internet could have taken control of the camera to spy on those residents. Instacam points to a massive security issue in our modern world. Our homes are supposed to be our sanctuaries, but because of a simple misstep during a technology setup, our most private moments are being put on full display for anyone's viewing pleasure. Let us move on to another bizarre corner of the internet. For anyone getting married, finding the perfect wedding dress is easily one of the most stressful parts of the process. Brides will spend weeks visiting shops and spending thousands of dollars to find the perfect match. It is an exhausting but exciting journey. But for newly engaged couples in Panama City, Florida, their search for a dress might take a very bizarre turn if they happen to stumble across a bridal shop called Yvette's Bridal. If you are driving down the street in Panama City, Yvette's Bridal is impossible to miss. It stands out like a sore thumb among the other cute upscale boutiques. It looks completely out of place, and looking at the building, it is hard to tell if it is even open for business. But their physical storefront is nothing compared to their website. If you visit their website, you are immediately hit with an absolute sensory overload. It looks like a chaotic collage of 20 different art projects all smashed together. It is incredibly confusing and jarring, but if you look past the flashing text and terrible design, some of the text seems relatively normal. It mentions that they have prom gowns, plenty of shoes, and tuxedo rentals starting at $65. But scattered among these advertisements are links that lead down a very dark and nonsensical rabbit hole. One of the most prominent links on the homepage is titled Psychological Thriller. Please click here. If you click on it, you are taken to a page with a heading that reads Gothic Horror. Underneath the heading is a creepy, hand-drawn pencil sketch of a person with wild, chaotic hair, their mouth open in a silent scream. They look absolutely terrified, as if they are staring directly at a demon. It is incredibly off-putting, especially considering you are supposed to be on a website for a bridal shop. This section of the website appears to be a summary or advertisement for a book called The Flaming Page. But before it gets into any details about the book, the author goes on a massive, rambling conspiracy rant. They write about the Salem witch trials, classified government documents, psychiatric institutions, and a mysterious entity called V8. They write that they are in agony, their sorrows fallen like tears on the page. They claim that V8 is everywhere, moving among us, and that the person you are sitting next to at this very moment could be one of them in disguise. They warn the reader to trust no one. This makes absolutely zero sense to the average visitor, and the contrast between these dark, paranoid conspiracy theories and cheerful advertisements for wedding dresses is deeply unsettling. If you click another link labeled Alien Abduction, you are taken to a page that details the plot of the book, which is about a man named Bart Fitzgerald Chamberlain who claims to have been abducted by extraterrestrials, but no one believes him except his 17-year-old neighbor. The website is filled with these bizarre juxtapositions. One moment you are reading about alien abductions, and the next you see a colorful banner that says, Yvette has a passion for fashion, and Yvette wants you to be happy. People on the internet began to wonder if Yvette's Bridal was even a real business, or if it was some kind of front. But a quick search reveals that the store is indeed a physical, functioning business in Panama City. It has a Yelp page with real photos of customers trying on dresses inside the shop, and even a positive review from a local resident. But the mystery of the website still remained. Years ago, users on the internet forum 4chan decided to investigate. A group of users from the Paranormal board actually drove out to the physical shop in Florida to see what was going on. They walked into the store and began talking with the owners, pretending to be investigative reporters from a UFO magazine who were researching the link between the United States government and aliens. The owners apparently took them very seriously and spoke with them for a long time. Later, the owners wrote a blog post about the interaction, wondering if the two young men who visited them were actually space aliens in disguise. This confirmed that the owners of the shop were indeed true believers in these wild conspiracy theories. But there is another layer to this story. Another name that pops up constantly on the website is Sean Terran Best. He is described on the site as a world-famous artist, and clicking on his link leads to long, deeply emotional diary entries where he begs the world to help him achieve his artistic potential. Some internet sleuths eventually reached out to Sean, and they discovered that he was a local artist who had been commissioned by the owners of the shop to design their website. Sean is apparently a very sweet, eccentric man who simply used the website as a canvas for his personal art and writings. The owners, being eccentric themselves, simply let him do whatever he wanted with the site. While this explanation is much more wholesome than a government conspiracy, it does not make the website any less bizarre. The owners have since changed and updated the site multiple times, likely because they were tired of being harassed by internet trolls. But the original, chaotic version of Yvette's Bridal remains a legendary internet mystery, a strange monument to human eccentricity, where wedding planning and alien conspiracies exist side by side. Finally, let us look at one of the creepiest channels currently active on YouTube. The internet is full of strange and unsettling content, but usually this stuff is buried deep in obscure forums. Sometimes, however, the most terrifying mysteries are hiding right in plain sight on a mainstream platform. This is the case with a YouTube channel called Rapunzel C88. Despite having over 80,000 subscribers and millions of views, the channel feels like something that belongs on the dark web. An internet user first brought attention to the channel on a popular mystery forum. They wrote that they had stumbled across a live stream on the channel that showed a very thin young woman with incredibly long hair sitting on a porch swing in the middle of the night. The stream lasted for hours, and the girl barely moved at all. She just sat there, staring blankly into the darkness. In the background, dogs could be heard barking frantically, and occasionally, faint whispering could be heard coming from off camera. It was an incredibly unsettling sight. When you watch the footage, the unease is immediate. The yard is pitch black, and the only light comes from a faint bulb near the porch. The girl's face is obscured, and the silence is oppressive. But then the details get even stranger. During the hours-long stream, the girl briefly gets up and walks out of the camera's frame. When she returns, a few minutes later, her shirt and her shoes have completely changed. It is a subtle detail, but it raises a massive red flag. Why would someone who is supposedly just relaxing on their porch in the middle of the night feel the need to change their outfit multiple times during a live broadcast? As the stream continued, the live chat began to fill with concerned viewers. People started speculating that the young woman was being held against her will and forced to perform these bizarre, silent streams for a camera controller who was generating massive amounts of ad revenue from the millions of views the channel was receiving. It sounds like a wild conspiracy theory, but when you look at the numbers, it is hard to ignore. That single live stream of a girl doing absolutely nothing on a porch swing had garnered nearly 2 million views. The other videos on the channel only add to the confusion. When she is not doing these creepy, silent live streams, the channel hosts poorly edited, amateur comedy sketches featuring the same girl. These sketches are filled with cartoonish sound effects and are clearly meant to be funny, but they are incredibly awkward to watch. What is even more bizarre is that these comedy sketches only get a few thousand views, while the eerie, silent live streams in the dark consistently get millions of views. This massive discrepancy has led many to believe that the channel's creator knows exactly what they are doing. They are deliberately creating these unsettling, atmospheric live streams because they know the internet's mystery solving community will find them, speculate about them, and drive millions of views to the channel. It is a brilliant, albeit highly creepy, marketing tactic. But even if it is just a clever act or an alternate reality game, the visual of that thin girl with the long hair sitting motionless on a porch swing in the pitch black while unknown voices whisper in the dark is something that will stay with you long after you close the tab. The internet is a vast, endless landscape, and while it connects us to a world of information, it also opens doors to spaces we were never meant to see. Whether it is a terrified child caught on a security camera, a silent stranger watching you pray, a bridal shop obsessed with aliens, or a silent girl on a porch swing, these rabbit holes remind us that sometimes the things we find when we go looking in the dark are far more unsettling than we could ever imagine. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of today's episode in the comments. And remember, we have a whole playlist of true crime episodes ready for you to binge right now. Until next time, see ya.